Hello, beautiful light-filled souls. My name is Trisha Barker, and today I would like to talk about the messages and lessons I received from my near-death experience. And one of the first things that I realized is that communication on the other side happens instantly and powerfully. That communication is crystal clear. It isn't confusing the way communication can sometimes be between people here on earth. That communication was inspirational and beautiful. And the only time that I can liken that type of communication to something on earth is sometimes during that realm right before I fall asleep, or right when I'm waking up from sleep and I'm in this dream state. I might feel messages coming from the other side. Maybe I get an answer to a problem or great inspiration or a beautiful line comes to me in that space. And if I take the time to write it down, then I feel as if I'm divinely guided. I feel as if my ego has slipped away and I'm in this more open, receptive place to messages. And if you could imagine that type of experience amplified thousands of times, that's how communication on the other side is. So I think it's very important in our lives to take time to meditate, especially if we want an answer to a problem or we want inspiration in some way. If we take that time to calm ourselves and to calm down our nervous system, then we're more likely to have that type of amazing connection and get the messages that we need. The next lesson that I learned during my near-death experience was that angels work through people to help heal us or to help us or guide us in some way. And I saw the angels during surgery working through my surgeon, and this stayed with me. I thought, well, how can they work through me at different times to help others? Or how can the angels work through others to help me? But more than this idea of angels working through people, I think the idea of being of service to others is what is important. If you do this from a place of love and openness and connection, then that is an incredible lesson. And I think many near-death experiencers come back and talk about how important it is to be of service and to help people in this world. The next thing that I realized after I saw the angels working through my surgeon was that we are all connected. So I began my life review and I felt this amazing connection with many people that I had known. And in that space and time, I realized that I was not open to certain people and they had such lovely hearts. So I worked with this group of people, and for whatever reason, I didn't open up to them. And I saw that I was missing out greatly on wonderful people. And that was a wake-up call. So maybe I was lost in my own fears and my own preoccupations and worries. Whatever the case, I was very much within my own shell, and I didn't take the time to ask other people what was important to them, what they loved, what their hopes were, what their dreams were. Maybe because they weren't university students, or I had, a certain judgment about them, and I was wrong. And that's something that I learned in the near-death experience, as well as not to judge other people by what clothes they wear, or silly things like that. Get to know who they are inside, who they are on that soul journey of theirs. So open up, don't be judgmental. And then as I concluded my life review, I was led to, or went into this beautiful landscape, which is a heavenly landscape. And there, one of the first messages I received was remind them to go to nature. So I've thought about that, I've blogged about that idea. I know that many great thinkers talk about how nature is a powerful tool, and for me, I feel incredibly reset. So if I climb up a hill or a mountain and I spend some time in nature, then I get a new perspective on my life, and I come back down to my life rejuvenated and happy, and my stress is gone, and I just feel incredible. And I think everyone needs that time in nature. I also think that there's a spiritual connection and a groundedness that we can have in nature. I've gone to hear many shamans speak, and when you are connected to the earth, the words that you say and the power that you have is different from when you are talking at a podium underneath lights or talking into this computer. There is something about being connected to nature that gives you this life force and this power and this groundedness that you don't necessarily get in other areas. So going to nature is important for so many reasons. It reminds us to take better care of ourselves, to be more in touch with the natural rhythms of life. So I could go on and on about that one, but that was definitely a clear message from God. Remind them to go to nature. And I would very much love to teach courses out in nature. I have taken my junior high and high school and college students to nature, and we have at times looked at poetry in nature, or we have meditated out by the river. I think those moments are memorable, and I hope my students find those memories to be bright and beautiful in their minds as well. So a class or a course in nature would be phenomenal for me, and I that's a goal of mine. Another direct message from God was to be like a little child and to remind other people to be like children. And one thing that I always think of when I think of children is how much they enjoy life. And I think I've succeeded since my near-death experience at that. I do enjoy life. I enjoy every little moment of life's blessing. So whether that is taking a walk or playing with pets or talking with friends or eating a great dinner, whatever is going on in my life, spending time with a loved one is beautiful to me. So I think children are very much in the moment, and they are very grateful for everything in their lives, and they are very excited about life. They also have great faith. So when I think about the idea of manifesting something, if you have the energy of a child and you have this goal in mind, then you are just all in. You're like, let's go do it. If you have the wisdom of an adult and the energy and faith and beauty of a child, you can accomplish so much in this world, and that's something that is worth holding on to and thinking about. So definitely consider the faith of a child, both for goals that you want to accomplish and for not being jaded. And, as adults, we can get so down after one failure or one or two failures, and yet children have this optimism about them that is amazing and important. So consider staying in an optimistic state of mind and being open and connected to others. Very young children don't have this boundary. There's an expression of love, and it is incredible. So the more we're able to express love without judgment and be these loving people, then the better our work environments will be, our relationships will be, everything in our lives will be. The next part of my near-death experience that I feel is a message is that I realized how deeply I was loved. So after that moment in the heavenly landscape, I went on towards the light of God, and I have never felt more loved in my life. Every part of me was loved, and I wanted for nothing. And I wish everyone could feel that way all the time. The more I think about it and the more I talk about it, the more I realize how incredibly powerful God's love is. And so that was a message that I knew I had to give to other people, is love yourself and realize how much God loves you. And all the things, the negative things that we have in our heads and the things that we worry about, and we worry about things we've done, God just brushed all that aside and treasured me in a way that I have never been treasured or loved. And it was a phenomenal experience. So the golden rule in so many religions is be good to others and be good to yourself. And that's what that love of God taught me, is to be good to myself. Before my near-death experience, I didn't take great care of myself. And I realized in that moment how I could and how I should, and how that is my divine right. And part of my reason for coming back is to remind others to take good care of themselves, to honor and treasure themselves, and to remind other people to do this. So as I got closer to the light of God and felt even more loved and more inspired and more alive, then I realized I was energetically being changed, and that I was a deep part of this light, and this light was a deep part of me. And people make this so complicated on the spiritual path. People are taking so many different classes and going to these types of clearings and these type of activations, blah blah blah. It's just so simple when you really get down to it. And that experience with God just taught me that I'm God and God is me, and God is pure love. And when I am in form and I think about that, I just think of this tunnel of light and love that just shoots down into my life and makes me feel more alive and more enthusiastic than I could ever imagine. And that is something that you can think about bringing into your life, is that absolute love and power of God. And it is simple and profound at the same time. So don't make it complicated. You are loved, and bring that love into your life. The next part of my near-death experience that I believe is a message is I was shown that I needed to return to Earth, and this connection that I knew I had to remind others of their connection. And I was told to do this through education. I found that as an easy route because I loved learning, and I think there are many ways to connect certain lessons in education to spiritual lessons or to moral lessons. And so it was an easy way to remind people of their divine connection and the inspiration that is available to them. Whatever you do, though, you can bring this light into your life and into the life of others, and you can live a more purposeful life because of this connection. So a couple of years ago, I realized I heard this message from God that I no longer had to teach. And for a moment I freaked out. I thought, what's going to happen? What am I supposed to do? And I realized that I wanted to write a book about my near-death experience so that others would know my story and it might help others. I've told this story many times to students, so I thought it would be a great idea to relay this story on a larger level. And then in some ways that is my legacy, and it is my way of continuing to remind people to turn on that light and to open themselves to that divine connection of God, and that there's so much love available to you. I worried, though, when I got that message, I thought, oh, is my life going to end pretty soon? And then I calmed down and started writing this book, and I realized that I had just learned the lesson. And the lesson is, no matter what you are doing in life, if you are reminding people of their connection to God and their own divine light and love, then you are doing what you need to be doing in this life. So it's all very simple. If you remember your connection and you remind others, then no matter what job you're doing or what job you're not doing, if you're just interacting with people, then you are on the right path. So I hope you got something out of this, and you can apply perhaps some of these messages to your own life. May you be blessed.